Most agents are trying to get better at sales by learning what to say. That's the wrong game. The best sales skill I've ever learned is knowing what to ask, because the agent who talks the most actually sounds like they're trying to convince. But the agent who asks the right questions helps the client convince themselves. And that changed everything in my business. I used to think the best agents were the smoothest talkers, the best objection handlers, the ones with the perfect listing presentation, perfect close, perfect script. But after being in residential real estate since 2002, selling over 1,000 homes and sitting at hundreds and hundreds of kitchen tables with sellers and buyers, I can tell you this clearly. Most agents do not lose business because they lack information. They lose business because they give information too early. They explain before they understand. They pitch before they diagnose. They start solving problems the client hasn't even fully admitted yet they have. And when you do that, the client pulls back. They say, "We're just thinking about it. We may wait. We're not ready. We need to talk it over." Then the agent thinks, "I need a better close." No, stop. Most of the time, you don't need a better close. You need to get better at diagnosing what's actually going on. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the #1 sales skill that changed my real estate career. How to ask questions that create clarity. Because clarity is what moves people. Not pressure, not hype, not some magic line. Clarity. And I'm gonna give you the exact framework I use with sellers, buyers, and leads. No fluff. Let's get into it. The real reason clients don't move forward. Here's what most agents miss. A client does not make a big real estate decision just because you gave them information. They move when they clearly understand the gap between where they are now and where they actually want to be. That's what I call the clarity gap. Your job is not to pressure them across the gap. Your job is to help them see it clearly, because once they see it clearly, the next step becomes obvious. Think about a seller. They may say, "We're just exploring," but underneath that, the house may no longer fit their life. Maybe the stairs are becoming annoying. Maybe the home is too much to maintain. Maybe the kids have moved out. Maybe the layout doesn't work anymore. Maybe they're tired of commuting. Maybe they want to be closer to family. Maybe they've been emotionally done with the house for years. Maybe the couple is splitting up and getting divorced, but they haven't actually said it out loud yet. That is the real conversation, not your marketing package, your brochure, your commission, your drone video, your floor plan. The real conversation is, what is no longer working? What happens if nothing changes? And what would a better situation look like? That is where trust is built, because now you're not selling at them, you're helping them think. And that is a completely different position. And oh, by the way, I'm currently building a private community for residential real estate agents just like you, who want to scale without burning out. If you want more time back, better systems, and a predictable business year over year, instead of this feast or famine hamster wheel that we're on, I'll drop a link below. No pressure, just something I'm building for agents who want to work smarter, not longer. From me, who's actually selling real estate. I don't know about you, but every single coach I look at right now, they're washed up. They haven't sold real estate in 5, 10, 15, 20, even 30 years. There's one guy I follow, he's like celebrating 35 years of coaching realtors. That means he has not even been in a transaction in 35 years, yet he's charging people a lot of money to coach them. Anyhow, I digress. But if you're looking for a community of people in the trenches just like you and me, check it out. There's some really good content in there. Back to the good stuff. Stop pitching and start diagnosing. One of the biggest mistakes agents make, if they hear a little bit of interest, they start immediately presenting. A seller says, "We may sell." Boom. The agent jumps into price, market conditions, timing, their track record, commission, process, and all of that matters. Don't get me wrong. But before you present, you got to understand more. You're going to sound like every other agent. A doctor does not walk into the room, prescribe medication before asking questions. But that's what a lot of agents do. They prescribe a listing strategy before they understand the seller's motivation. They prescribe a follow-up plan before they understand what the lead actually wants. So here's the rule. Before you explain anything, diagnose 3 things. Number 1, what's the friction? Number 2, what's the cost of staying the same? And number 3, what's the desired outcome? That's the framework. Friction, cost, outcome. If you know those 3 things, your advice becomes specific. If you don't, your advice is just hot air and noise. And that is why some agents can sound polished, but still not convert. They gave a great presentation, but they never uncovered the real reason the client should act. I'll give you a seller example. Find the real friction. Let's make this practical. A homeowner will say, we're thinking about selling. A weak agent hears that and starts trying to win the listing. A strong agent slows the conversation down. I want to understand what's underneath it. So I'll ask, what's made this come up now? Then I'll ask, what's starting to feel difficult about staying here? Then I'll ask, if nothing changes in the next 12 months, what would become the biggest frustration for you? That last question is huge because now they have to picture staying there for 12 months, not selling, staying. And when they picture staying, the truth usually comes out. They might say, well, honestly, the house is starting to feel too big, or the stairs are becoming too much, or we're just not using the space the same anymore, or our kids have moved on, we're empty nesters, it's a lot of space. Now we have something real because I didn't tell them they should move. They told me why staying may not make sense. Then I'll ask, what would the next home need to solve for you? That's where the conversation gets even better because now they start describing the actual outcome. Less maintenance, main floor living, closer to family, better layout, more privacy, simpler lifestyle, better cash position. That is the move. The home is just the vehicle. And once they say that out loud, the appointment changes. Now you're not trying to convince them to sell, you're helping them solve the problem they just described to you. That is high trust selling. The question that reframes the whole appointment, here it is. What would have to change for this move to feel worth it? It's a great question because it does not assume they should move. It does not push them, zero pressure. It makes them define the standard. A seller may say, well, Liam, we need to know we can get a strong enough price, or we need to find something that actually makes our life easier, or we need the timing to work because we don't want to be stuck between homes. Perfect. Now you know that price matters, the next property, the timing, the risk. Those are all real issues. So now when you eventually present, you're not presenting generic information. You're presenting around the things that they told you matter. Coming from them. You're not assuming anything. That's why asking questions creates leverage. They show you what to talk about. And just as importantly, what not to talk about. Because one of the fastest ways to lose a client is to give them information they didn't ask for or frankly don't even care about. I'll give you a buyer example. Don't just open doors. This skill is just as important with buyers. A buyer says, we're just browsing. Most agents either take that literally or immediately start pushing for a showing. Both are mistakes because just browsing can mean a lot of things. It can mean we're interested but nervous. We're too early but serious. We don't know if we can afford what we want. We're frustrated with the current market. We don't want to get pressured. We haven't figured out our criteria yet. So instead of rushing straight into listings, I want to understand the gap. I'll ask, what caught your attention about the property? Then, what are you hoping would be different in the next home? Then, what's not working about your current setup? Then, if you stayed where you are for another year, what would get frustrating? Those questions are simple, but they will completely change the conversation. Because now, you're not talking about bedrooms and bathrooms, ensuite, single or double car garage. You're talking about life, more space, stress, better school zone, shorter commute, more privacy, lower maintenance, better layout, better long-term fit. That's what people are actually buying. They're not buying granite counters. They're buying a better version of their day-to-day life. And if you can help them articulate that, you become more than the person who opens the door. You become the professional real estate advisor. That's the difference between being useful and being replaceable. A lead example for you right now. Stop sounding transactional. This matters even more with leads because most agents sound terrible when a lead comes in. The person asks about a property and the agent immediately fires off, are you pre-approved? Are you working with an agent? What's your timeline? Do you want to book a call? Those questions are way too early and they feel too transactional. This business is relationship based and the lead feels like they just entered your sales funnel. Instead, start with curiosity. If someone asks about a home, I'd ask, what caught your eye about that one? That's a much easier way and warmer way to start the conversation. They may say something like, we like the neighborhood. We need more space. We've been watching the school zone. We're thinking about downsizing. We're trying to get closer to work. You know, my best one-liner comes from Chris Voss, the author of Never Split the Difference. So all the time, whether it's a lead, a client, one of my team members, when they call me, or if I reach out to someone, the first thing I'll say is now a bad time to speak? Opposite, I'm leading with a negative, like I'm proactive, I'm optimistic, glass half full, rah, rah, rah. But it's crazy. If you lead with that one-liner, whoever you're talking to, they're gonna be like, no, Liam, it's fine. I'm just on my way to pick up the kids. I'll be there in 10 minutes. No, it's great. People will tell you their life and the length of time they have to speak with you. It's crazy. But if you're like, is now a good time? Everyone always says, hey, Liam, is now a good time? But change it. I always say, is now a bad time? Again, I can't take credit for that. Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, best book I have ever read in my life. Encourage you to check it out. If you ask someone, is now a bad time? You are gonna find out where they are in their moment in life, in live time, and you will know the length of time you have. Whenever you're following up a lead, I don't know about you, but for me, I am very curious on the amount of time I have to talk to that lead. And if I talk too long and I ask them too many questions, then I'm not gonna get the essence. So I really need to know where they're at. That question is much better than diving right in to all of the real estate jargon. And once you understand how much time you have to deal with them, then you can get into those motivation type questions, because finding out the motivation will help you get to the next level. There's a saying, no mo, no go. No motivation, no go. If you don't know someone's motivation, it's gonna be a tough hill to climb. Once you know someone's motivation, doesn't matter any aspect of life, you can close it. Trust me. The 3-part clarity framework, a simple framework I'd encourage you to write down. Every strong sales conversation needs 3 things. Number 1, current friction. What is not working right now? For a seller, it may be the home, the maintenance, layout, commute, stairs, timing, uncertainty. For a buyer, it may be the space, location, lifestyle, rent, family needs, monthly payment. You got to understand the friction, because no friction usually means no urgency. Number 2, cost of inaction. What happens if nothing changes? This is when the conversation becomes real. If they stay there for another year, what gets harder? What opportunity do they miss? What stress continues? What problems remain unsolved? They move because staying in the same spot has a cost. Your job is to help them uncover that. And number 3, desired outcome. Everyone wants to move to something. Like, life happens when you can get excited about the future. You need to help them get there. What does better look like for you? Not just in the next house, but a better life setup. Low maintenance, more space, more certainty, more convenience, closer to family, better financial position, less stress, more freedom. Once you understand those 3 things, you can actually advise. Without them, you're completely guessing and making assumptions. Assumption, like I'm sure we've all heard it. Assumption makes an out of you and me. Never assume anything. What you don't know, you don't know. Clarity brings power. Why this changed for my career? Well, when I got better at asking questions, everything got easier. Not because sales became easier, but because I stopped trying to force the conversation. I stopped trying to sound smart too early. I stopped trying to prove my value before I understood the client, and I stopped treating every appointment like a performance. Now, especially on the first meeting, I want to feel like a conversation. I don't want to spend 3 or 4 hours building a full CMA presentation for someone who may not even be ready yet. That's not a good use of time. I got 2 young kids under 4 at home. I run an active real estate business. My time matters and your time matters. So before you over prepare, I want you to understand, are they actually motivated? What problems are they trying to solve? What happens if they don't do anything? What would the next move actually accomplish? The first conversation tells me almost everything. And honestly, I try to approach it with curiosity, like a toddler. Why this? Why now? What changed? Why does that matter? What happens if it stays the same for the next 12 months? Simple questions. But simple questions create deep answers when you ask them properly. And when the client feels like you actually understand what they're trying to solve, their guard drops. Now your advice lands. Now your pricing conversation lands. Now your process lands. Now your recommendation feels specific to them, not generic. And it feels relationship-based, not transactional. So what to stop doing immediately? If you're an agent watching this, here's what I'd stop doing right now. Stop answering questions too fast. Stop jumping into your presentation too early. Stop assuming just browsing means not serious. Stop sending listings before you understand the motivation. And last but not least, stop defending your commission before you diagnosed the client's problem. See, the best salesperson is usually the one who can slow the conversation down, ask better questions, and help them see the decision clearly. This is a skill. So if you want the number one sales skill that changed my real estate career, here it is. Ask better questions, not more questions, better questions. Ask questions that uncover the friction, questions that reveal the cost of staying in the same spot, questions that define the outcome the client actually wants, that future outcome. Because when you get clients clear, the decisions get easier. And when the decisions get easier, you don't need to push as hard. That's the entire point. The best decisions do not just give information, they create clarity. They help clients think better, decide faster, and move with full confidence. That skill has helped me on listing appointments, buyer consultations, follow-up calls, lead conversation, lead conversion, commission conversations, pricing discussions, and almost every important sales conversation in this business. And once you understand how to create clarity, the next step is learning how to turn clarity into a full sales process. So that's why I would encourage you to watch my next video right here. I've closed over $500 million in residential real estate sales and the 6 steps to sell anything to anyone. Check it out right now.